Welcome to the latest episode of the Mature Masculine Podcast. My name is Taylor Elwood and I'm your host. Today I'm talking about the topic of learning how to say yes to yourself. And as always, I've got some personal stories with this. Let me first talk about what I mean by the concept of saying yes to yourself. So when I talk about saying yes to yourself, what I'm really talking about is like the importance of actually saying, my needs and my wants and my longings are valid and I have the right to express and advocate for them. That doesn't mean that anyone else is obligated to fulfill them. I want to be very clear about that. Like, just because you want something doesn't mean that someone else has to give it to you. There's a very key point around recognizing the difference between expressing something that you want and feeling entitled to get that thing that you want. And like one of the issues, and I'll talk about, I'm writing an article about it, but I'll also talk about it in a future episode, is recognizing male entitlement, like recognizing when we feel entitled to certain things and what the problems can be with that entitlement. So I'm just putting that out there is kind of something to look for in the future. But at the same time, I think it's really important that we learn how to say yes to ourselves as men. That we learn how to say yes to our inner boy. We learn how to say yes to our inner teenager. We learn how to say yes to that inner younger man that we are. We learn how to say yes to ourselves now. That we learn that it is okay to recognize, hey, I have valid wants and needs and longings, and I can validate myself and actually express them to other people. I can say, I really want a foot massage today, or I really could use a back rub, or I could really use a hug, or I really want to have sex with you, or whatever else it is. And again, saying it and being able to at the same time gracefully accept the no, because sometimes you're going to get a no. Sometimes somebody is not going to want to do something with you, and your ability to handle that rejection and not take it personally is absolutely essential to becoming a grounded and mature man. Now, I'll freely admit, I have not always been that man, and sometimes I still occasionally struggle with being that man. As anyone who's kind of like following me on here knows, I'm doing a lot of work right now on being more assertive. I'm doing a lot of work around my codependent, people-pleasing behaviors. So I want to talk about the cost of codependent, people-pleasing, nice guy behaviors. When we talk about a nice guy, what do I mean by that? I mean, a nice guy is somebody who will bend over backwards for other people and won't express in an honest or genuine manner what their needs and wants and longings are. Instead, what they'll try and do is they'll try and take care of somebody. They'll try and put that person's needs and wants and desires above their own. They'll try and anticipate them. They'll try to quote-unquote fix them in the hopes that that person will just maybe give them what they want. But even when they get what they want, a lot of times the nice guy is unsatisfied. And why is that? In my honest opinion, the nice guy is unsatisfied because he isn't in integrity with himself. He's created covert contracts which aren't spoken, which he may not even be fully aware of, and that the other person certainly isn't aware of, that says, if I do X, then you'll do Y for me. If I give you this, then you'll give me that. And so there's this expectation, that there's this transactional expectation built in to the relationship. Aside from the fact that it makes a relationship incredibly icky and not healthy, one of the biggest problems with this approach to living life is that the man isn't in integrity with himself. He doesn't know what he really wants. He doesn't know how to say yes to himself. He doesn't know how to be honest with himself. And as a result, he can't be honest with anyone else. Do you see how unsafe that can make someone else feel? If I'm always wondering what this person wants and what their agenda is, it doesn't make for a healthy relationship. And speaking as someone who has had his share of unhealthy relationships, what I can definitely say from my side of those relationships is that I've come to recognize and see my own people-pleasing behaviors. And how what I've tried to do is get the approval of other people in order to feel a sense of acceptance from those people. If I do X and Y, maybe this person will accept me. Maybe this person will approve of me. Maybe this person will have sex with me. Maybe this person will like me. And it hasn't worked. Because if anything, what I found is that by being too accommodating, too people-pleasing, by constantly putting my own needs and wants to the side, what I've ended up doing is creating a situation where the person that I'm talking with doesn't respect me, doesn't value me, doesn't appreciate what they have with me. And why would they? Because they know there's something going on underneath there. They don't know exactly what it is, but they can tell that something's going on and that the way this person is behaving is not in alignment and integrity. So man, this is where we need to do better. Because when we act like we're being the quote-unquote nice guy in a situation, what we're really doing is we're selling ourselves short. We're not honoring ourselves. We're operating from a place of codependency, a place of neediness. I need your approval, and if I don't have it, then you won't like me and won't accept me. And these behaviors are manipulative, and they can be very insidious. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person because you're a people pleaser. It just means that you're somebody who's trying to get your needs met through other people, and you learned this behavior at some point in your life, usually early on. For example, in my case, I learned this behavior when I was a kid. I learned it because I lived in an abusive home environment where I could get yelled at, grabbed, other things like that at the drop of a penny. And a lot of times I was grounded, and no matter what I did, it was never good enough. But I kept trying to please those people. And the problem is, I carried that particular belief and that particular limitation into all of my future relationships. This damaged those relationships. And in all fairness, I didn't fully understand or see that up until relatively recently. I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was operating from a place of ignorance around my own behaviors. I thought I was a good guy. I thought, these people are taking advantage of me. But in all honesty, I have to acknowledge and admit, I allowed a lot of the behaviors where people crossed my boundaries because I was trying to make them happy. And this is another hallmark of nice guy behavior where we're not learning how to say yes to ourselves. Learning how to say yes to ourselves is also about setting boundaries. For example, if somebody yells at me and I say, look, you can't yell at me that way ever again. Like, I'm not going to accept that. And if you yell at me that way again, I'm going to leave this relationship. I'm going to walk away because that's not. I am worth more than that, and I deserve to be treated better. What I'm doing is I'm setting a boundary, and I'm saying that this is what will happen if you do this again. I'll give you a one-time pass because you didn't know. Maybe we didn't talk about it at a time. Maybe we didn't have proactive conversations. Okay, fair enough. But after that, after that, the relationship will end. Well, at that point, you're setting a firm boundary and you're saying, I respect myself, I value myself enough that I'm not going to be treated this way. I'm saying yes to myself. And by saying yes to myself, I might be saying no to you. But I'm choosing myself. And this is a healthy behavior. And of course, sometimes you're going to be with somebody who's going to say the same thing to you. They're going to say, hey, look, if you do this, I'm going to have to set a boundary here where this is what could happen if you do that. And this relationship could end or something else could change. Again, that's fair. That's healthy communication. Now, we don't always have to frame it that way. Sometimes it could be that we have proactive conversations. So saying yes to myself is also saying that I'm going to have a proactive conversation with this person. I'm going to say, hey, I really want to be in relationship with you, and part of being in healthy relationship with you is if I take the time to communicate with you about the kind of relationship that I want to have with you and what I'm looking for and what I consider acceptable and unacceptable. And let's see if what you consider acceptable and unacceptable meshes and matches me, or if there's areas that it doesn't, and so we can, at that point decide to let each other go. And again, this is part of setting healthy boundaries. We're learning how to say yes to ourselves. We're learning how to value and honor ourselves. We're learning how to choose ourselves instead of choosing other people. Because here's the reality. If you want to have a healthy relationship with somebody else, you have to learn how to choose yourself. When you choose other people over yourself, you are creating a circumstance where it is unhealthy behavior. You're creating a circumstance where what you're doing is not going to be good for you, and it's not going to be good for the other person. If, for example, if I'm always saying yes to somebody else and no to myself, I am disrespecting myself on a fundamental level. There can be times to say yes to someone, and there can be times to say no. But if I'm going to say yes to someone else, I should also be saying yes to myself. And again, as someone who's a recovering nice guy, this is something that I struggle with even now a fair amount. Like I'm being fully transparent here that there are times I still catch myself doing people-pleasing behavior, where there's that part of me that freezes or fawns or smushes inside and says, well, this is what I got to do. I got to make this person happy. Because if I don't make this person happy, then I'm going to be unhappy. And this is where nice guy behaviors have to be experimented and explored with and discovered. Like we have to kind of take those apart. One of the things that I've been doing in the last couple of years is in the last few months, is I've been doing a lot of work around training myself to be more and more assertive. And I've definitely encountered what I would call my inner smush, that part of me that feels like jello and just kind of like wiggles and wobbles, and someone comes along and I'm like, I'm afraid to speak up and say my truth. What's the worst that's going to happen? That person might leave me. Okay. That person might decide that they don't want to be in my life. Okay, that person probably doesn't belong there anyway. When we don't do that, what ends up happening is we build up resentment, and that resentment comes out sideways. It comes out in passive-aggressive comments. It comes out in taking actions that aren't in alignment with ourselves. It comes out in making agreements that we're not fully on board with, and because we're not fully on board with, we're actually setting ourselves up to fail. So I don't want that for you, and I don't want that for me. And I think that one of the most important things that we can do is recognize where we are giving away our own sense of power and presence in order to please other people. So learning how to say yes to yourself means setting better boundaries. It means working on being more assertive. It means speaking up for your wants and needs and longings without the expectation that someone's going to give them to you. It means honoring yourself and choosing what is most important to you and choosing to pursue that, even if it doesn't make other people happy. Sometimes you're going to make decisions and choices that other people are going to be scratching their head and they're going to think you're crazy. And at the end of the day, you have to kind of be like, okay, maybe I am crazy, but I'm going to trust myself and I'm going to do this thing because this is my inner truth. And that's a hard thing to do, but it's something that I strongly recommend to you. So if you're watching this video and you're someone who struggles with these kinds of behaviors, I want to encourage you to reach out to me. If you click on the link below this video, you can access me for coaching, you can access some of my programs, and I would love to help you with whatever work you need, or you can drop a comment and let me know and I'll reach out to you. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have an amazing day.